Bryant had an opening plan. So it basically started as soon as classes were over in May. We were trying to figure out how the heck we were going to get back and be in person. Bryant is a small residential campus. We've got about 3,500 students altogether and predominantly live on campus. And we're in a nice kind of rural setting where there's not a lot of city. So we decided early on that it was a goal or a priority to try to get all of our students back on campus one way or another. And so there was a series of committees that were formed for different sectors of the institution to sort of come together and figure out how we could open. One of the big ones was obviously academics and looking at classrooms, and the one that I was on was health and safety. And so we basically started working, and the Health and Safety Committee was a collaborative group of individuals from our health services to our PA program, for the science, for faculty, from facilities to, some physicians. And so it was a bunch of people from across the institution to figure out how we could implement a COVID safe plan. And so that's sort of how the opening actually came about, working with academics and working with all the other different committees. So that's what we did all summer. And so I can tell you sort of what we came out with, or if that's your next question.
Oh, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay, so there were a couple priorities. All throughout the summer, as you're aware, we were learning about COVID, and we didn't know a lot about, what was responsible for COVID, what was happening with COVID. It seemed like there was new information that came out all the time. So it was really hard to plan anything, because every time you did, it felt like all the parameters just changed, the recommendations changed. So we had to work really tightly with the State Department of Health to make sure that everything that we were implementing was going to be approved by them, which is also led by the CDC and their guidelines. So a couple of things that were really important to us. The first being testing. So a lot of institutions that are maybe not faring as well as we are don't have the level of testing that we do. So we felt that testing was very important, and not only testing, but we were doing surveillance testing, which meant that we were testing everyone on the campus. We started off bi-weekly, but we dropped down to weekly. So everyone from faculty, staff, all students were tested once a week on campus. That was important for us in the sense that a lot of the spread for COVID-19 is asymptomatic. And in fact, all of our cases, except for one, have actually been asymptomatic. And so a lot of colleges that are doing what we call asymptomatic testing, meaning they're not testing until someone actually shows symptoms, they're missing a lot of the cases, and they're having some explosions in terms of numbers. So it was important for us to have that asymptomatic level of testing. The other thing that was important in some of the issues, at least we've seen in Rhode Island, and I think we've seen other places as well, is the time it takes for tests to come back. As an example, my son got tested over the summer because he had cold-like symptoms, and it took us a week to get tests back. So we knew that we had to partner with someone to ensure that we were going to get our test results back very quickly. Otherwise, it didn't make much sense. So we partnered with this place called the Broad Institute, which is out of Boston, and they guarantee that we will get results in 24 hours. So everyone's tested at least at a minimum of once a week, and they get their results back in 24 hours. Therefore, if there's any positive cases, we can really quickly sort of mitigate that and remove them from the population. We've since increased our testing for certain populations as athletes are going back. We're trying to make sure that they're working in teams, and they're doing a lot more than some of the general population. So athletes are tested more, commuters are tested more, and if anyone has jobs that are off campus, they're tested more as well. So that was really important to us and has been quite successful. Contact tracing was really important. We wanted to establish our own contact tracing program on campus and not rely on the state program, because we felt that it would be much quicker to be able to start contact tracing right away to, again, mitigate any of the issues that we had. And third, we implemented this thing called the Health Checker app, which is just an app that every student has to do, everyone that comes onto campus. It basically attests the fact that you have none of the symptoms of COVID. And if you do say that you have symptoms, you're not allowed on campus. It gives you a big red X, and it backtracks the information to health services so they can follow up and get you in for testing or whatever it might be. So those were three of the big sort of key facets from the Health and Safety Committee with respect to how we were going to open. And of course, on top of that, it was consistent mask wearing and of course, social distancing in the classroom. So those are some of the big things.
How many classes are you teaching right now?
So as a chair, I teach two. So I have two classes. My classes are twofold. The academics committee, it was important for us to have freshmen fully in person. So our classes max out at 35. And so we basically went around, their group there, went around and tried to find spaces on campus where we could fit 35 students and still distance the 6 feet plus the masks. So there's close to 100% of all freshman classes that are fully in person. And the rest of the classes are the high flex model, which means that we split the classes basically in half. And so half will come on one of the meetings of the class, and the other half will be zoomed into the classroom. And then we tend to sort of swap and keep swapping back and forth. So most of the upperclassmen classes are in the high flex model.
What's the average class size usually?
Yeah, so maximum we're looking at 35 to 36. If you're looking at average, you're probably looking at closer to 20.
Okay. So you guys have a pretty low number of cases. What do you think is the biggest attribute to that?
We're at 0.08%. I think we've had 29 cases total out of a 30, like almost 35,000 tests. So, and in the past week last week we had none. This week we've had one so far. And so again, I think the success is a couple things. One, the students are complying to what we're saying. So we've had a very vigorous campaign that basically is telling them we have to comply or everyone's going home. And it turns out that I don't think students really want to go home. They didn't really love the whole fully virtual experience last spring. They're excited to be back. And so honestly, I'm actually very shocked at the fact that the students are all wearing masks every time they're walking on campus. Every time they're coming into the classroom, they're always wearing masks. It's something that everyone is doing. And of course, the distancing, we're maintaining the distancing in the classrooms. I can't speak to what they're doing in the dorms, but I'm sure that they're not. But at least we're ensuring that from the academic standpoint that we're monitoring that. But the biggest success, again, I think, is the testing. The testing is the key role in all of this to make sure that as any cases arise, we're able to quickly get them out of the population. So I think the surveillance testing has probably been the most critical piece of the whole thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or just say?
No, I mean, I think we're super proud of Bryant in terms of its community effort in this. The opening plan, like I said, involved everyone from facilities members to faculty members to administrators to our provost to deans, and everyone worked all summer to figure it out. And it was not an easy task in a sense that, again, everything was so uncertain. So we were trying to make decisions in a time of uncertainty, which was difficult. We're also trying to make decisions when everyone is basically saying, and it's never going to happen. But everyone that was on these teams that put things together never questioned how are we going to do it. We just basically found mechanisms to do it. We got the support of the community at large, and I think that's really, really been impressive. But I also think the students have been fantastic, honestly. I mean, I thought we were going to have to police students more. I thought we were going to have to ask them to wear masks. And that's not the case at all. Honestly, they are doing everything that they are asked to do to be able to maintain this. They're doing their testing. We're not having to worry about that. They're doing their self-checker apps. So I think that's one of the things that I'm super proud of in terms of being a Bryant Bulldog, in terms of making sure that we've had a safe campus and a relatively COVID-free campus.